Welcome back to Book Club Preview. I'm Michael, and today we're looking at the Son of Neptune, chapter 29, and this is the first chapter in a series of 4 for Hazel. And wow, this chapter really gets straight into it. Finally, we're starting to get some answers, we're starting to get some truth. And it starts with Ella. I asked last session we had, it's like, do you think Ella will stay with the heroes? Well, yeah, it looks like she is. They gather up some books and they kind of make a little bed for Ella on the boat, which doesn't sound like there's very much room. Maybe Ella flies most of the time, I don't know. But Ella decides to join the heroes, and she says they're her friends and she's going to follow them all the way to Alaska, which is pretty crazy. I'm really curious what's going to happen with Ella. This is all Hazel, right? Thinking this. All Hazel talking, Hazel thinking. And she starts to think about Frank because right now Hazel, she doesn't feel very good because Phineas said, this is your fault, Hazel. You're the one that started this whole thing because you rose Alcyonus. And so Hazel just feels so terrible. But then she thinks about Frank. Oh, Frank is so brave. Frank was so strong. Frank is so tough now. And she has this different perspective of Frank. At camp, Frank was very clumsy. Frank needed help and protection. But now, Frank is the hero carrying Hazel. That's how Hazel feels, at least. Well, Hazel starts to finally tell the truth of everything that happened in her past. We already know it, but she tells Frank about Alaska, about Alcyonus, about Gaia, about her mom, about everything. Now, Percy and Ella are listening, but really she's telling Frank, but she knows that they're listening too. And Frank doesn't really care. He's like, wow, you were a hero. I can't believe you stood up to Gaia all by yourself. Wow, you saved your mom even though you died. And Hazel's a little shocked. Well, Percy asks her about, oh, you must have gone to the fields of Elysium with all the heroes because of your great deed. But Hazel didn't go to the fields of Elysium. And then as she starts to talk, she starts to go back into her memory. But Frank is holding her hand, and Frank goes with her. And Frank sees her memory. And Hazel doesn't try to explain anything. It's probably too heavy for her. But she's trying to let Frank see everything. So that way she doesn't have to say. She goes across the river Styx. And she goes to the judgment people. And the judges, they're going to send her to Elysium. To the field where the heroes go. And she's going to be so happy and great. But Hazel hears that her mom is going to go to the suffering field. So mom will go to suffering, Hazel will go to Elysium. Hazel doesn't like this idea. And so she talks to the judges and says, hey, look, I'm not that great. My mom was really there for me. My mom wasn't that bad. She did bad things, but in the end, my mom loved me. And so the judges decide, okay, well, we'll take you down a notch and we'll move your mom up a notch. And so you guys will go to the fields of somewhere, which is just like a big dream area. And so Hazel gets sentenced to go to these fields of something. I can't remember. I wish I could. And she's there for eternity. Not really eternity. It's only like 50 years. No, maybe more than 50 years. Let's see, 80 years or so. But it feels like an eternity. Every day's the same. No one remembers anything. Hazel is the only one that can remember her past, that can remember her identity. She's different than all the others, and she doesn't really try to talk to anyone. She just kind of floats around and dreams a little bit, but she knows everything that's going on. Well, she's there. And Frank is still with her. They go and sit by a tree. And for Frank, it also feels like he is just sitting here for forever. And this is still Hazel's memory. And they're talking, and Hazel's trying to share some stuff, but Frank is trying to help her. And he says, my grandma said a burden is better shared with multiple people or problem. But Hazel's like, no, I'm just going to keep this one by myself. I don't want to share it. And then Frank says, yes, you need to share it. And he takes out the wooden piece from his coat. And he says, and I want you, Hazel, to hold on to this. And she looks at it, and Frank tells her about the piece of wood, about how he's too powerful because he has Argonaut's blood and he has Mars's blood, and his life is going to go burn out too fast because he's too powerful and is tied to this wood. So he tells Hazel everything. And then at the very end, Nico D'Angelo comes by and he says, Hazel, I'm going to give you a second chance. And she comes back to life. Whew! And probably the memory's over. Vocabulary. Nibbling. Nibbling is like just taking little tiny bites. Just eating a little bit, like a hamster or a squirrel. Or a rabbit. Just taking little tiny bites. And who is it? Ella. Ella is nibbling on some jerky, I believe. Knack for getting into trouble. Sorry. This means maybe like a talent or an ability. Knack is like a skill. And it's not a good thing, right? Skill for getting into trouble. Meaning that for some reason, you or someone always gets in trouble. Frank had a knack for getting into trouble. Anything he did, he would do it wrong or bad, or something would happen and he'd get into a little trouble. He has a knack for getting into trouble. Kept her spirits up. Spirits up just means like your emotion, your joy. You're not down, but you're up. And Frank was trying to keep Hazel's spirit up, keeping her from getting sad, keeping her happy. And I believe the last one here, perpetual bliss. Perpetual means forever, continual, always. Bliss means happiness. So the Elysium is perpetual bliss. It's like heaven. You're always happy there. You get everything you want or whatever. But she gave up that to go into these other fields which are just like a dream. There's nothing really great, nothing really bad about him. Discussion question. All right. If you were Hazel, would you have taken half your mother's punishment? Right? Imagine, this is for eternity. Right? Now, mom going to punishment, that's pretty big for eternity. Suffering for eternity. But Hazel can have pleasure for all eternity. But she decides to trade it so that way they both go to the fields. Wow, that's a really big sacrifice. What would you do? I know, you think about your current mom. No, I would never. I would do it for my mom. But think about Hazel's mom. Hazel's mom wasn't that great of a mom. And yeah, Gaia did take over Hazel's mom for a little while. But, man, that's still quite a lot of stuff that she did bad. But still Hazel gave up her reward. What would you do? Of course, please make your own discussion question. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hey, if you have any questions about the video today, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. If you had any other vocabulary words that you wanted to know what they meant, let me know. And also, if you're interested in maybe joining one of these book clubs, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.